Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 241 of The Ball is Round. My name is Andy Coronado, and tonight on the show, we'll discuss Roses FC draw to the Halifax Tide and CF Montreal draws to their last home game against Nashville SC. As always, I'm joined tonight by my man, Elias Grigoriadis. How you doing, man? How are
I
you
I
doing?
can't complain. I can't complain. Soccer wise, I absolutely can't complain. Life is miserable. Shout out Barcelona women's team. It's the only people keeping me going right now. But other than that, I'm doing all right.
Replayed this time last year, Elias literally said the same exact thing.
That's incorrect. October was the best year. It was the best month of soccer I've ever had
Okay,
in my entire life.
I'm just
So
manifesting myself.
wrong.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I that little introduction that I just did, I forgot to take a sip of water before I did it. So I was like, I was just like literally dying through it. But we're okay. We're here. Honestly, kind of depressed that it's so dark outside and it's only 7 p.m. It's
October.
it's
Just because it's 25 degrees outside doesn't mean the sun goes down any later.
a Statsaputo was so nice yesterday. It was like perfect soccer
Don't you just
weather.
love a matinee game?
Yeah, it is so nice. I was like sweating in October. Like, what are we doing? This is crazy. It was, but anyways, we'll talk about the game. We'll talk about all that stuff. But Elias, it's really happening. It's almost the end of the season for most of soccer in Canada, and I mean, the ball is round has been pushing through. And we've been pushing through with our listeners too, right? We've been pushing
For better or for worse, yeah.
yeah, for better. It's been a tough season. I mean, we'll talk about it in postmortem, right? But we still have to like kind of reflect, right? It's been a tough season, not just as guys to people that do podcasts, but we also go on KNFC, we go on other shows, and we talk to other people that are also involved in this, in this thing we do, and it's been difficult in the sense of sometimes you try to stay as positive as you can, but it's been a rough one. But in any case, we'll continue doing our thing, and we're gonna continue giving you guys our best. I don't know why I had to say that. I just got very reflective that it's almost the end of the
Well,
season.
yeah, I mean, soccer season's almost over. Well, at least North
Yeah,
American soccer season's almost over. So naturally, there's a
yeah,
bit of a, oh
yeah.
man,
Just a little sadness, but a little happiness that it just went by so fast. It went so quick.
it did.
We were we were having shows here. I don't know, episode 235, whatever it may be, or episode 230, where we were talking about 3 games being played in 1 week. It was crazy, and I
Yeah.
was just
Well,
kind of
that's going to be normal next year with the
we're
Super.
gonna have
So
yeah, exactly. We're gonna have and I know in a month I talk to you like that, like I'm tired right now, but I know that in a month, Elias, you and I are both gonna be like, we need to watch some soccer because enough of
absolutely.
this conversation. Anyways, let's get to it. By the way, those of you who are with us right now, make sure to comment your questions, any questions you may have, anything opinions you may have about what we say here, and we're gonna go ahead and interact with you guys. And before we get started, guys, make sure, just a quick reminder, that if you listen to the show and like what you hear, click on the subscribe button to support The Ball is Round. While you're at it, make sure to also subscribe to all of our social media platforms for daily updates. We're on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok,
Everything.
all over the place. So sign up to the Ball is Round, support us. And we obviously have a few surprises for you later today. And some of it that we already shared on our accounts. All right, so let's get right into it. So we're gonna start with Roses FC because they played a little earlier this week. I believe it was Thursday.
Yep.
They played against the Halifax Tides at Halifax, and it was really cold. They seemed to be cold, and yeah, it was against a last place team, right? It was against a last place team, and it was, I don't know. It was tough to see. We'll talk. Well, I do have a few questions about the game itself. Do you have the lineup there, Eli, so we can just kind of
I do. Yes.
talk about it here? So we'll react a little bit. So at goal we had Anna Karpenko. At center back we had Capadonna, Hill, and Julia Les. And I'm going to say the three of them because I do believe, based on what I saw, that it was a 3-back, that they were playing, not a 2-back. They had Whitaker. Yeah, it kind of shifted. We'll talk about it,
Ish.
but they had Whitaker as a wing back, in my opinion. Then they had Ali Hess and Roy as midfielders, and Bibo also as a midfielder, but a little bit higher. Sauve as a left back, left winger, Sharim on the left wing, but then she changed over to right wing, and Boychuk as a 9. Let's just talk overall. What first, you see this lineup? What do you think?
My first thought was what you were talking about. Is this a back three? Is Lisa or Capadonna playing at right back? Is and Whitaker's pushing further up the field, which is also entirely possible. What's going on? Nobody knows. But I wasn't too surprised to see some kind of formation change. It's clear the game against Calgary was not good at all by any stretch of the imagination, and you have to work on stuff, right? If Numi Pakeng is out long term, that needs to be something that or it won't be available to the full to her fullest extent. Won't be available. That is a serious cause for concern, and I think that you have to now find creative solutions. So I wasn't too surprised to see. I mean, Julia Lease is also an excellent defender who deserves to have. I mean, through no fault of her own, Stephanie Hill and Anna Karpe and Lucy Capadonna have kind of made themselves, immovable fixtures in the lineup. But I still think that Julia Lease is an excellent defender. So the fact that she, in a slightly different role, gets some minutes is also super important.
Yeah. Well, when I saw the lineup, I thought the same exact thing as you, right? I'm trying to figure out what. Now, those are three defenders. I called it last week when I wrote my article about the analyzing the game. I was like, they have three excellent defenders, and clearly the fullbacks are struggling right now. Why not just give them those three backs and at least allow a Whitaker to go up as a wing back and really, showcase her attacking abilities, because I do think she does have excellent attacking abilities. It's mostly at the defense that is a knock on her, which to me constantly makes that side, the left side, very vulnerable. And when I saw it, it looked throughout the game that they were Julia Lewis was staying back, and she was playing mostly as a center back. So it was good. I like the experiments. We've talked about in this show plenty of times how important it is to experiment when things aren't going right. You mentioned that yourself. The Calgary game left a lot of questions more than answers, especially since the season is coming to an end for Rose FC and the playoffs are right around the corner. And now let's go ahead and talk about the game, because we talked about the lineup, right? So what did you think overall of the game? I mean, it ends up being 2-2. It's not a bad thing. But to me personally, Elias, when I saw it at the end of the game, I'm not feeling very happy about going to Halifax and coming away with 1 point. It doesn't feel like a win to me. It doesn't feel like a good game to me.
And it shouldn't, right? I mean, look, Toronto is points wise is too far ahead of everyone for first place to be an actual objective. But second place and a home field advantage is very much in the running now, and they were in a perfect position with these two games against Calgary and Halifax to put themselves in an excellent spot, because you have the next two games you have are against Vancouver and against Toronto to close out the season. It's incredibly tough, and getting the points that you need in that kind of situation is a long shot, to say the least. Vancouver has 3 games left to play, and if they win, that means Ottawa, Vancouver, Montreal can be tied at 36 points.
Vancouver has 2. Vancouver has 2.
Vancouver has
they have Montreal and Calgary. I'm looking at it right now. Montreal and Calgary.
They have to play Ottawa too. Ottawa, Montreal, and Calgary. They have 3 games. They have 22 games played, and they have 33 points.
Okay, then.
That's what FOTMob says. So maybe
somebody's Sofa wrong. Score. Yeah.
Sofa score. FOTMob is better. But one way or another, right? It's all incredibly close, and Montreal have missed out on a fantastic opportunity to give themselves some breathing room with Ottawa and Vancouver, and kind of put themselves in a great spot to host a semifinal game. And now they have a lot more work to do, and they have to do all that work coming off the back of some very unconvincing performances. So it's very complicated now, and they've put themselves by their own doing. This is not stuff out of their control. They've put themselves in these positions.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's. I mean, it's hard for me to even define today. We got 1 game or 2 games, regardless of the other teams around the league. I'm talking about Rose FC. It comes on a draw in an important part of the season when every goal counts, every score you concede counts. So you did want Robert Rastoy to experiment a little bit and see what worked for this team, but at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like it's working. Even the goalkeeper, Anna Karpenko, yesterday, I know I've been very critical of her on this show, and I thought she did a few good saves Thursday, but at the same time, there's still that insecurity, that lack of confidence when the ball is in her feet, and it's something that I think gets everybody nervous. It gets everybody nervous, and against better teams, against better forwards, maybe forwards that are like kind of feel that vibe from the goalie, they'll jump at the opportunity, and it's gonna come back to haunt Roses FC when these kind of little things that happen. As far as the back three, I didn't when I saw the game, I wasn't very convinced about it. I think they're all three of them individually are excellent defenders, but I don't think the back three worked very well, especially because teams, as I've told you in the past, Elias, they are simply finding out that the left side of Roses FC is becoming very vulnerable, and they did literally the same thing this time on the left side. And Julia Leas, I felt, had a hard time kind of catching up with the attackers, and was also a vulnerable side. And Whitaker, I'm not sure what she's doing defensively. I don't really understand it, what her role is there. But beyond that, I was, and I want to ask you about this, okay? Because let's talk about Tanya Boychuk. We can talk about Cherim. We can talk about the other attackers. You mentioned Noemi Paquin and all that. But I feel like in the past few games, I've been seeing Tanya Boychuk struggle a lot. Now, she scored 2 games ago, so you might think, okay, she scored, no big deal. But the Tanya Boychuk that I saw on Thursday night, seemed like a striker that didn't understand her midfielders, or her midfielders did not understand her, and they seem to be a big disconnect where it's actually like, maybe, again, I don't know if this is on Tanya Boychuk, or maybe the team is missing some kind of cohesion between each other, understanding as to what they want out of the attack, because it wasn't pretty. And I don't know if at this point the solution is maybe let Tanya Boychuk take a step back in the bench and maybe give another forward a chance, and let Tanya Boychuk kind of, I don't know, look at it from far away, as we mentioned with Anna Karpenko earlier in the season. What do you think of the attack? What do you think of the Tanya Boychuk debacle from
I think Tanya Boychuk has had a really tough time adjusting to being the lone striker up top, right? She had, whether it's Latifa Abdou or Noem Paquin or Claire Manuel, having someone up there next to her that she can play off of complements her game very well. Now that she's alone, and a lot of the brunt of the work is on her shoulders now to be the target, it's definitely an adjustment period. And I think that Charlotte Bilbao, and the way that she operates as a 10, is not, she's high up the pitch and she's in very advanced positions, but she's not going to play as a striker, and she's not someone that necessarily Boychuk is going to be that matches Boychuk's pace, right? Boychuk is someone who's just always moving, who's super dynamic, and Charlotte Bilbao is someone that is a bit more methodical with the way that she plays. It's just 2 different profiles. I don't think are gelling that well. I'm gonna feel like beating a dead horse, but I mean, I still want Cherim Kang to try out the 10, right? And the game that I saw, on Thursday, where she was on the left side this time, it makes me believe that even more, because I saw her cutting into the middle of the pitch. I saw her when she was on the right, she's pretty disciplined. She stays to the right. Yeah, she cuts in once in a while, but she is a right midfielder. She's a wide right player. But when she was on the left, she was cutting into onto her strong foot. She was combining, and I loved her game. And I think that, again, Cherim Kang needs to play in the 10 position if we're going to get the best out of Tanya Boychuk, because at least Kang is someone that can keep up with Boychuk, and that can, that is unselfish, because she's always looking to find the next pass. And Boychuk can now just focus on being dangerous instead of, necessarily slowing down for Charlotte Bilbao's style of play. Because again, when someone like Charlotte Bilbao is on the field, you accommodate her, right? She's too good to not be accommodated. And so I think that it's kind of causing some growing pains. And she scored a fantastic goal, right?
Yeah.
And it was a weird goal, but it was
so weird. Yeah.
You don't score if you don't shoot, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you know what?
But that's the second time it happens. Not with her. I think 2 weeks ago, I think it was Stephanie Hill that scored that goal that nobody expected her to score, and it was just like supposedly.
Yeah, but that was also a rocket. This one was the goalie kind of looked taken by surprise almost, because she didn't react in time, and then by the time that she did react, she was kind of.
She pulled an Anna Karpenko. Anyways, so what we're gonna.
But yeah, I think that Tanya Boychuk. I don't necessarily think she needs time on the bench, but I wouldn't mind her either playing with Cherim Kang, or even finding some time out wide where she can kind of play at her own pace, and especially combined with Megan Sylvie again. if she plays on the left.
You know what? I think that also you mentioned a little bit earlier, but Bilbo, I think she's being not played in a good position. She's very good at it in the high press. She can go one on one, and I think she's lethal
Mhm.
when she comes. But in order for her to get there, Elias, to get to that position where she's on that 1v1 against a player, she has to run and she has to have an intensity and she has to have a certain kind of,
Mhm.
what Noemi Paquin brings, what Montreal brings, but not Charlotte Bibo. Charlotte Bibo, we spoke about in the show. I feel like she's a better midfielder in the back, and when she sees the field a lot bigger. But I saw her on Thursday, and she felt like she was. It felt like she was struggling to run and to maybe like she probably wants to do it mentally, but she can't. Like her body just doesn't go that way. So it was tough to see, and I think she's not being played in the right position. I think they
Mhm.
need to find somebody else. Maybe Minas. I don't know. She's a lot quicker. I don't know how. I don't think she's as good defensively as Bilbo, but I think she's not being played well, and that's causing issues with Boychuk. Again, maybe Boychuk is not understanding it. Maybe it's a lack of just cohesiveness all around, and that's affecting the score. To me, that's affecting the score a lot. Cherim, to me, is playing next level. She clearly is at another level than most of these players in the field. Her hustle defensively, Elias, not just an attack, not
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
seeing the field, but the way she finds ways to influence the defense and catch players by surprise of the other team is another level. I still see that there's some growing pains, as you mentioned, as far as communicating with her colleagues, where sometimes they probably don't understand what she wants and she doesn't understand what they want. But the playoffs are right around the corner, Elias. This is my question. Does this look like a playoff team to you right now? The way
It's
they're
it's it's
playing?
it's, it's absolutely a playoff team, right? Yeah, they had bad games against Calgary and Halifax, but to say that either of those teams are better than Montreal is ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. Montreal executes at a much. This was some of the best soccer that Calgary and Halifax played, and some of the worst soccer Montreal has played. And you got a 2-2 draw, and you got a 2-0 win that should have been a 1-0 win. Right. So with that in mind, no, there's no doubt in my mind that this is a playoff team. They're more than good enough. They're more than good enough to play home for to win home field advantage. I still think. But the thing is now you're going into this end of the season with just a really concerning lack of momentum, because quality doesn't matter now. It's how you end your season, right? Nobody expected New York Red Bulls to make the MLS Cup final, and then look at them because they got hot at the right time. Montreal is getting cold at the wrong time.
Yes.
So I think that, you know, whether or not their form indicates it, quality wise, on paper, they're absolutely a playoff team. And I think that, when it works, they can play with every team because they beat every team in the league and they beat every team in the playoffs. So I still think that, there's a huge game on Saturday. And if they lose that game against Vancouver at home, then I think that they're not going to get home field advantage. I don't think they're going to be able to recover in time. Um, and then your life gets a little bit more complicated. But this team is good on the road. So again, that remains to be seen. But I think that you need home field advantage, especially for the playoffs.
I don't think they're a playoff team right now, and I'll tell you why. That's my opinion because if you ask me who is Roses FC, what kind of team they are, I don't know what to respond to you. I can't give you a solid answer. I can only tell you, I can only tell you that this player is good and this player is good here and this player does well. But I can't tell you Roses FC as a team. Maybe at the first two games of the season, I will tell you Roses FC is the kind of team that presses high. They press high and they pressure. They pressure the back line, and based on that, they get opportunities and then they score. But that's not what I've seen. That's not what I've seen, and it hasn't been something that I've seen. And if anything, they're testing new things out. If you want to talk about the level of competition that they've been facing the past 2 weeks, you're absolutely right. It's not that the other team is probably better than Rose FC, but at the end of the day, I don't think they have an identity. If they get hot, like you mentioned on after that first game in the playoffs, maybe they do finally find an identity, something that works for them. Because you mentioned it yourself, when it works, and it's beautiful. And I felt like we've said that for two games in a row, where we're like, okay, Rose FC are back. They are playing their kind of football that we've seen. But then one injury happened, something I don't know, anything could happen, and then we were back to square one, where we don't know what they're doing, what position they're playing, what formation they're playing, And that's what worries me. If this team can't find an identity from here to, like, I don't know, what is going to be in 3 weeks or something, the playoff start, then I think Roses FC are in trouble, regardless of home field advantage or away, because it's happened several times this season that even at home, they don't find their own identity. So we're going to see. As you mentioned, they have 2 more games left. You mentioned Vancouver and Toronto. What is it that you're gonna want to see from the next 2 games?
Just any kind of creativity going forward, right? Defensively, I'm not concerned because the only times they really struggle defensively is when they offer nothing offensively. In a game that's pretty back and forth, they handle themselves quite well. But those last couple games, they fall flat in terms of creating chances. They commit numbers forward and then they get hit back on the counter. The second that they start having some creative success, you will instantly, see an improvement defensively because teams will not have to commit numbers back and they won't get hit back on the counter as much. Because again, you have and we haven't talked about her today, but she needs a massive shout out. Ali Hess has been in fantastic form. She has completely, done a 180. She had a decent start to the season. She had a rough middle, and she's ending it on a high note. We're talking about, ending the season on the right way. She absolutely is. I think her along with Kang have been the 2 best players on the team in the last month. And Ali Hess, again, she got an assist on Thursday, assisting Jaren Kang's goal. And she has been the workhorse and the engine that the team needs. And on top of that, she's tall and she's physically imposing, and she is really controlling that entire midfield. And so I think, again, you'll have someone like her in her current form, you're even less likely to concede on the counter. But it starts with forcing other teams to respect you. And if teams can feel comfortable defending you with 5 or 6 or 7 players, and they can commit 3 players to the counterattack without anything else, then you're already in danger.
Yeah. Look, I think what I want to see the next 2 games, the last 2 games, and I mentioned it earlier, is I want to see this team find some identity, find themselves, find who Roses FC are, and play their style, play their way with confidence. That's what I want to see. I want to see them grow as a team, and hopefully they can, when playoff times come, they can play, the best kind of football and dominate teams. Because I do, as you mentioned, in paper, it does look like this team can literally beat anybody in this league. I agree with that. Toronto's definitely up there with them, but I do believe they do have the opinion, the good talent. Anyways, we have Matthew B that asked the question, which is actually a very good question. He asked, "What is Roses FC best starting 11?" I'm gonna say not Anna Karpenko at the goalie. I'm gonna say Gabriel Lambert.
I think it's time to finally admit that Karpenko needs to take a step back. She should have, like, the second goal I won't fault her for. That was an extremely well placed shot. The first goal,
what a shot! Jesus.
Yeah, the first goal she was caught flat footed.
Yep.
She completely misread the shot, and it did not make her look good.
Yeah.
Again, that one was well placed as well, but it just should have been better.
Right back, I would say, assuming they're playing at the usual formation we've been used to, right? So they play the 4, not what they did on Thursday, the 3 back. We're gonna say the 4 back. At right back, I would love to see Leroshenko. I have no idea what's going on with her. I don't know how bad her injury is. Leroshenko at the right back. Center back, I love to see what we've been seeing, Lucy Capadona and Stephanie Hill. And left back, almost Leroshenko again. Because, Megan Sauvé is the best left back this team has by far. I think she's fantastic in that position. What she does on both sides of the ball. Midfield, you mentioned Ali Hess and Bilbo playing deep, and Ali Hess using her body to really box out. Right wing, I would say Sherim, just because she's so dynamic and so creative there. At the 10, I want to have Minas. I want to have her there. I haven't seen her play that position, but I like the way she's so technically advanced and uses her speed and technicality to get out of rough spaces. Left wing, Noémie Paquin, 100%, 1,000%. I know she's injured, but if you're asking me who their best XI is, their best 11 without the injuries, then Noémie Paquin, 1,000%. As far as striker, I don't think we really have much of a choice. I mean, do we have any other choice? I mean, we have Boychuk. We have nobody else. Who else have we seen at 9? No, nobody really. I can't say. Anyway, do you have anybody that you disagree with me in that the best XI? Somebody you
Right
would change?
now, I would go with again. This is assuming that Noemi Paquin is not available. Um, if Noemi Paquin is available, then we have a very similar starting 11. My only difference is I have Tanya Boychuk on the right and Clermont up top and Kang at 10.
Mm.
That's my. If Noemi Paquin is not available, I want them to keep the same idea again that they had um against Halifax, where it's a back four of Sauvé, Hill, Capadonna, and Lease, and then Whitaker almost as a winger because again, I think she's too good to not have on the field. Tanya Boychuk on the left and Claire Monnier up top, and again, Jeremy Kang at the 10 because that is the one thing that I'm going to be propping up for the rest of the season and going into next season. Is I want her in the middle of the park. And then, of course, you have the double pivot of Ali Hess and Charlotte Bibot, which I think has been very solid and very good. And on their day, borderline unplayable. So that's my best 11. Again, Noemi Paquin being in or out of the lineup is a huge difference. But I think right now, it seems like she won't be in the lineup at least for Saturday. And I think that's what you have to go with.
Yeah, I think we both agreed that Karpenko needs to be dropped and Whitaker needs to maybe come in as a backup role. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. One last hot take before we move on to our next topic: is Robert Rasatoyu the right coach for Roses FC in 2026? Elias?
For 2026, yes. I think he's earned the right to stay on, but I think that after next year, you have to show some kind of growth. You have to show some kind of tactical evolution. You have to show some ability to be a bit more malleable, just from a game plan perspective, and you have to have better management of your squad. Right? I need you. He seems to sometimes got to find the right word here. Be insistent on certain things, even when they're not working. I'm trying to be diplomatic, but I get it, right? When a coach has an idea and a coach has a philosophy, you want them to stick to the guns. You don't want them to be second guessing themselves and going, this or this or this. I just want him to be a bit more malleable and a bit more the ability to have the open mindedness to play someone like Megan Sauvé at left back, which turns out to work fantastically, right? No one would have ever thought to put, or at least that's when you have Lara Shank and Jody Smith on your team, your first thought is not to drop a winger to left back. And he did it and it worked perfectly. So that's the kind of flexibility and open-mindedness I want to see from him next year. But I also want to see him really work on this team's chance creation. Because so many times they end up with playing against a team that's, it's a well-organized low block and they've got no answers. And this isn't a formation thing anymore. This is a mentality thing. And there's no willingness to break lines. There's no willingness to really kind of hammer down on those mismatches that you find. And I need to understand why. And that's down to the coaching.
I agree with you in a lot of sense of I if he would have kept on going the way he went, I think it was 2 months ago when we were doing the show that we were like, it seems like Robert Rasatoyu is really set on his ways. He doesn't really change what he's doing, and it's kind of becoming a. But he probably listened to the show, right, Elias? And he probably listened to us, and he said, "I'm going to change my ways." So based on him having that bravery to change and maybe experiment and see what could work when things obviously were not going well, it was obvious to everyone that it was not going well. Then he changed it. That's when I said, okay, you know what, this coach he's a coach. Like he understands when there's problems and things need to, and there are probably tough conversations, Elias, that he needs to have with his players too, with Megan Sauvé, letting her know, like, you know what, I know you enjoy that position, but I need you somewhere else now. I need you. The team needs you. And obviously Megan Sauvé, being the captain that she is, obviously took it with her head high, and it's produced good results so far. So yes, I absolutely think that in 2026, he should be the coach of Roses FC. However, as you mentioned, there's no longer in 2026. I think everybody can say this. There's no longer that honeymoon phase where it's a new league, it's a new team, everybody loves them. No, there's expectations already, and you're going to assume that they're also going to sign. Maybe players are going to leave, whatever it may be. But there has to be some sort of continuity from 2025. It can't just end. So absolutely, I do think he's going to be the coach for Rose FC. And yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. But before we move on, as always, a word from our sponsor. Hello, the Ball is Rounders. This show is sponsored by AR Design. I can tell you that in my case, as you can see in my background, I need some change. This is why I reached out to, my wife reached out to Allison from AR Designs to bring some change in my space. You can't see it now, but over the next few weeks, this room is about to get a little funky with the way it looks. I thought Allison will come to my place and turn the place upside down right away. But before changing anything, she made sure to really understand what my vision was for our place and what budget we were working for. And based on that, she gave us some advice and some ideas as to what our place could look like in the future. And that's when we knew that we had reached out to the right person. Like a soccer team working together for the perfect goal, AR Interior Design coordinates every detail of your interior design project, so your home comes together beautifully. From concept to final touches, Allison makes sure every element works in harmony. Visit ardesign.ca today to see her latest interior design project, or follow the links that you see below me on her Instagram, email, or the website, or you can just find the links on the YouTube description. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, AR Design. Thank you again to our sponsor. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic. So as you, Elias, we were at the stadium yesterday. CF Montreal drew to Nashville FC, which I find Nashville FC is actually a really good team, and they're hot. They got off of a win, right, in the U.S. Open Cup.
They won the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, they won the U.S. Open Cup. So it was a big kind of I guess we kind of got to do this game, because they just had a huge celebration over the week. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the lineup of the game, and let's talk about the game. So, les 11 de départ. At goalie, we had Thomas Gillier, we had Jalen Neal, Brendan Craig as center backs, we had Luca Petrasso left back, Bodie Hidalgo as right back, Matty Longstaff and Victor Loturi as midfielders, Ivan Jaime as a left winger, Dante Sealy as a right winger, Oger Escobar playing the 10, and Prince Owosu playing the striker. Now, Elias, before you take that picture out, you look at the remplaçant, the substitutes, right? Tell me that's not a bench of unsatisfied employees at a company. If you see it, I mean, just look at.
I mean, yeah. Look, I look at that bench and I see like half of them aren't here next year, right? Realistically,
half of them.
And I'm not saying they're leaving. I'm saying if they're not here, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
And it's the reality of the situation. You've got a fair amount of injuries now. You've got, obviously Jack Morioni, but you've also got, Owen Graham Roche, who's injured. You have, David Bugay, who's injured. Samuel Piet, who's injured. Those are significant pieces of depth that are not available. So, yeah, obviously the bench looks a little bit thin because it is thin. Because, again, you still have injury problems. Even with 2 games left, you still have injury problems. We're in October and you still have injury problems.
Such a CF Montreal thing to say. Hey, but other teams are, we focus a lot of CF Montreal on this show, and we talk about it, and, you and I, Elias, and people that cover this team, we focus a lot, but we forget that other teams are having it just as hard. But the problem is that we have, CF Montreal has nothing to lose. They're done for the season. That's just clear as day. But other teams are actually suffering through these injuries, and they still have something to fight for the next day. They still have a playoff game or a playoff fight. So I don't know which was worse or which was better. Obviously, nobody likes to see anybody get injured, but it's crazy. It's crazy how soccer can just flip from one day to the next. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about it. We talked about Gillier, Buddy Hidalgo. We talked about Brandon Craig, Fernando Alvarez, Jesus. Jalen Neal, and on left back we had Luca Petrasso. What was your take on those on that back line?
I'm not surprised at all. I think this is the best back line you can get right now with this team. With in terms of availability, the Bugay obviously injured, but I would not be surprised. In fact, I'm actively expecting, assuming that Bugay is not available for the game against Cincinnati, for that to be the back line again in Cincinnati. So they've all had. I mean, Buddy Hidalgo has only been here for 5 minutes, but it's been a very good 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But Neal, Craig, and Petrasso have all had good seasons at the very least. Have had good seasons. Have had important seasons, again, Jalen Neal not nearly as fit as you'd like him to be. Right, you'd want him to get at least 25 games under his belt in all competitions, and he's got, significantly less. And so I think the main focus for him next year is to come into training camp in good form. He didn't really have a real training camp. He spent most of training camp injured, then missed a big chunk at the beginning of the season. When you start behind the 8 ball like that, it's so tough to get your rhythm back. And then you get setback after setback and re-injury after re-injury. So I'm not too concerned, but what you see from Jalen Neal is so potent. And the fact that this is a Jalen Neal that has been off his equilibrium, physically speaking, for the whole season, and this is what you're getting is so exciting. So I'm not too concerned. Brendan Craig and Luca Petrasso, along with Dante Sealy, who we'll talk about later, are the steals of the season, man. They're at the very least excellent squad players, excellent MLS level squad players. And have been good in starting roles. So yeah, again, these 3 trialists have been revelations.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with most of what you say. Let's talk also about Thomas Gilia, because I also do think that he was I liked how he played yesterday. I do not agree with him being the man of the match. I thought he had great some great stops he had, but his distribution to me was atrocious yesterday. I didn't like how
again
how he distributed the ball. Even short. Last week I said his short distribution I really liked. I thought he was accurate with his defenders, with his midfield, and his long distribution was not good. But yesterday, even his short distribution suffered a lot. So I'm not going to say that the goal was on him, because it wasn't, but it definitely wasn't. It didn't really help. And I'm not sure why they were replaying the offside. I really didn't get it. We were in the press box, and I did not. They looked at it for a long time. I did not get it at all.
I think it was an offside in the build-up, not the offside of Sam Surge. That was obviously beyond dispute.
Yeah, it was strange. But in any case, as far as the defense goes, I'm not too convinced. Yes, you mentioned Brandon Craig would be a fantastic MLS center back, but to me,
squad center back, right? I'm not talking about starting caliber here.
Yeah,
talking about having him in the squad is very good.
Yeah, and that's what to me, I guess, when I see the game, I put that in my head where I'm like, okay, well, he's a starting MLS center back for CF Montreal, and right now it seems like he's becoming more of a liability, and teams are really attacking Brandon Craig. Jalen Neal does not get his challenge as much because he can stand his ground. He knows what he's doing, but Brandon Craig will get lost really quick, and teams are really quick to, especially veterans, will see how he can sometimes down himself with the ball on his feet. It takes time, but next year in 2026, I don't think is the kind of season that CF Montreal can afford to have players that they need time to adapt. It's just, it doesn't work. I like Luca Petrasso with Ivan Jaime. I do like that combination a lot. I thought yesterday they had a lot of instances where they were both running alongside each other and just kind of understood what the other one wanted. And it gave, and I also really like Luca Petrasso's crossing ability, which used to be what we said in this show was Tom Pierce's only ability, and now Luca Petrasso has found it, and that makes Tom Pierce not needed here in CF Montreal anymore. And at right back, I really, really like Bodie Hidalgo's defensive awareness, and I like what he brings on the right side. I think he locks it down. He has that Donadell kind of, I guess he fits perfectly into the Donadell scheme where he's very locked on and man-to-man, and he'll run back and forth. His offense, though, that needs work. I think Bodie Hidalgo's offense needs a little bit of work, but I think that he has the potential to improve with time. But let's go ahead and go to midfield where we had Matty Longstaff and Victor Lattori. Remind me, Elias, was there any subs for midfield? I don't remember. Nope. Okay. Which we'll talk about the subs too, because there were a few subs that were a little bit weird. But yeah, what were your thoughts on Victor Lattori and Matty Longstaff yesterday?
I didn't have any thoughts, honestly. They were there. They did their job. They didn't actively get overrun. In the first half, at least, I felt they held on to the ball pretty well. And yeah, I mean, it was really just it's a nothing burger, but not in a bad way. It was kind of just they were present and they were not actively liabilities. I still think, again, we're gonna talk about this till we're blue in the face, but that they become a little bit redundant in possession because they both have such similar profiles. Matty Longstaff is a bit more technical. In possession, Victor Latour is a bit of a better dribbler, but they both basically come out to the same thing. So honestly, I think that you need a conductor. Again, we're going to say it every single week until the window opens. Then we'll continue to say it every single week until the season starts. And then we'll continue to say it every single week if they don't get one. But they need a conductor. They need someone that can break lines. They need someone that can distribute. Yeah, and again, like Patrick said, right, they need to bring something more creative going forward, a creative box to box. Yeah, somebody who's capable of breaking lines, several lines if need be, whose long distribution is very strong, and they don't have that on the team right now. Bryce Duke is the closest thing, and the problem with Bryce Duke is that the rest of his game is not reliable enough. And so then you're stuck in a box. So I think that Bryce Duke coming off the bench is okay, but he's definitely not in a starting capacity, and at least not in the current system that Marco Donadel wants.
Yeah, and honestly, like for me, the midfield, at least with Victor Latour and Matty Longstaff, like you said, there's not much to say, right? They did their job, but at the same time, yesterday, I felt like yesterday would have been the great game for them, those two, to kind of make a statement where, like, we're not just going to do our job, we can do more. We can actually, you have even Jaime on the left side that you're playing pretty much the whole game with. No, he was taken out earlier, right? Like 60th
at the hour mark.
Yeah, so he I thought they could have done more. I didn't like Victor Latour's game. I thought defensively he did well, but offensively I thought he was atrocious. A lot of turnovers in the middle. Not necessarily his fault. It just seemed like they weren't in the same page with a lot of the attackers. And it's late in the season. We just talked about it with Roses FC as well, right? It's kind of weird in that sense because it shows that Victor Latour and Matty Longstaff, as similar profiles as they are, they find it, they're still trying to figure each other out. Yeah. Is it the midfield for 2026? For me, it shouldn't be. I hope not. I hope if they are, it is kind of in a backup role in the sense that both of them come at some point in the game to kind of, like you mentioned, do each other's role. But I don't want them to be the starter because I hope that is a 100% a priority this offseason is to find a complementary midfield to either Samuel Piet or somebody or Matty Longstaff, Victor Latour, but someone that is a game changer, not somebody that just does the job. We don't need midfielders. CF Montreal doesn't need midfielders that just do their job because I think we've had that since 2022, just midfielders that do their jobs and do it okay, and that's it. So you need if you see some of the best teams in the whole league in the MLS, the midfielders are not the ones that will do their job. They'll be the ones that will make a difference. Will make a difference in a game for good or for bad, because sometimes these players also have really bad games. Patrick White says Schwaniav would help.
Yeah, obviously Schwaniav would help a lot, but
we're not gonna go there. But yes, obviously he would help a lot. Okay, so next up we had the attack, right, where we did have subs. We had Ivan Jaime, we had Prince Owusu, Alger Escobar, and DANTE Sealy. Now, second week in a row, DANTE Sealy scores that crazy free kick, which is it's insane to. It would have been lovely to have that since the beginning of the season, but he's just catching fire, right? And so you have even Jaime on the other side, which a lot of people questioned why he was taken out. Because it's, I think Elias said everybody knows that we're playing for nothing at this point. So why?
I mean, he's coming back from a knock too, right? That's one of the main reasons he only played half an hour in Charlotte. He played 60 minutes this weekend. Hopefully against Cincinnati, he plays 90 minutes. I'm not saying you protect the lead a little bit because, again, there's a lot of running. If you're going to capitulate possession to the fullbacks, I mean, he just wasn't following his fullback anymore. And so then that right back gets possession for free. And Goboglu will do the running. But also, Ivan Jaime is coming back from injury. So not coming back from injury, rather, but, he came back from a small knock. And that's why he wasn't starting against Charlotte. And so it didn't come as too much of a surprise for me. It was unfortunate because, I felt like he was having a very good game. But, that's the reality of the situation sometimes. So Alexander Guboglu came in. That's fine. Same thing with Ojer Escobar. Fabian Herbers is a more experienced and mature midfielder who comes in to kind of shore things up in the middle of the park. I'm not too surprised by that. So, I mean, people were upset with the substitutions. I mean, we got a question today, right? second half substitutions after the second half substitutions performance and the substitutions that are made horrible. Yeah, it's your opinion. Does Donadel deserve to return as manager next year? Please don't tell me he didn't make the decisions. We'll talk about Donadel in a bit, but the substitutes themselves, I don't think the substitutes themselves were bad. It's the whole team was bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like Goboglu came in and he didn't really do much, but nobody was doing much. Herbers came in and he did all right. Sanusi came in for Prince. Again, Prince, who had not trained with the team all week. He was training on his own. He was doing load management just to prepare him to be able to play 70 minutes on the weekend. So having Sanusi come in is not that much of a surprise. And
it's his farewell. It's his farewell. It's
Sanusi's sure. But the subs themselves were not bad substitutions. They were necessary substitutions. But we talked about at the beginning of this segment. The team is incredibly thin. So yeah, obviously. I mean, timing, Patrick, it says the timing was bad. You sub someone on at the hour mark. That's when all the substitutions are made. They were suffering possession for the entire time, right? Up until the disallowed Prince Owusu goal, just at the half hour mark, up until the substitutions, they had like a quarter of the ball. So, I mean, the timing was bad. No, the timing wasn't really bad, I wouldn't say. I mean, there's no right time when your team is playing badly to substitute players, but, the substitutions were not really what sunk this team.
No.
It's just the complete lack of energy. And David Souvre talked about it after the game, how he was very upset with the game because the energy wasn't there. And so they just kind of capitulated the ball. They didn't press. And they said, I will make sure that, we are short up defensively instead of, defending on the front foot, which is what they normally do. And yeah, you can probably defend that way for a certain amount, but you have to remember that you're still a last place team with a bunch of injuries that have conceded almost 60 goals this year.
Yeah. And
you're not just going to hold people off for 80 minutes on a wing and a prayer.
I think what was most disappointing for me, forget about the substitutions. I thought it was a poorly planned game. Now, you can say it was Marco Donadel, David Sauvre. I don't know. I don't care. At the end of the day, what happens is on Saturday when you watch the game, it looked like a poorly planned game, especially after the tremendous victory you have against Charlotte the week before, 4-1, where everything seemed to go well. But the most important thing that I liked about that game against Charlotte FC was that, and Montreal has done this on the road plenty of times, where they come in and they say, we're here. We're going to play our game. You guys figure it out. The opponents figure it out. But we're here to play our game. While at Stade Saputo, they played that other role where they say, come to us, guys. Come to us. Attack us. And we'll take it from here. And it's almost like...
But David Sauvre talked about it after the game. That wasn't the game plan. They had to adjust the game plan because the players were not delivering with the proper energy. Right, so you could plan as much as you want. You could plan a perfect game, but if your player Mauro Bielsa, I think that's his name, is the Argentinian coach, has one of my favorite quotes. If I played with robots instead of players, I would never lose a game. Right? You could have the best tactical setup and the best game plan and the best matchups and everything. If your players don't execute and your players don't deliver and your players are not running,
so what went wrong? What happened?
The players didn't show up. The players scored a goal. The players. There was a game plan set in place. The game plan they've been playing all season. And the players don't run. What's the coach going to do? Spike their water at halftime so they run more? You can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? So then they had to make certain tactical concessions because the players weren't doing the job. So if you hand the coach, a bad hand, he has to make do with his hand.
Okay, but look, let me play the devil's advocate, okay? So what if David Sauvre is saying that in the press conference? He's saying, look, guys, I did everything right. The players just didn't show up. But what if the players are listening to that today or last night, whatever, and they're saying, what the fuck is he talking about, man? We showed up.
They probably, I mean, they know they didn't. Let's be honest here. You have to have, like if this is amateur soccer, you can kind of protect. This is professional soccer, right? You should be able to be told. You should be able to react well when you're told you had a shit game. And Dante Sealy had good moments, obviously, but everybody on that pitch did not have a good game. Either in or out of possession, nobody had a good game. So I think if you're a professional, You should be allowed, you should be able to handle it when someone says you did not do your job well today. It's not an indictment of you as a person or even you as a professional, but on the day, you were not good enough.
What about a third point of view? Okay, so what if the players did show up, the game was really well planned, everything went well, but Nashville is just better, and CF Montreal's talent on the field is not good enough to, even on a good day when they show up and everything's well planned, to win and literally dominate the game. As Patrick
Do
White
you
says,
really think you've seen this team play 35? No, you've seen this team play
almost 40 games.
38 games this year, right? Are you seriously going to tell me right now that is as good as they could have played?
No,
I'm not,
that's not
I'm not saying their ceiling is that much higher, right? This is still the worst CF Montreal team in history, right? From a points total perspective. But are you really going to tell me that, they did the best they could? Nashville was just better. No.
I don't believe that. I'm telling you, I don't believe that. I'm just bringing in that third point of view, right? Because there are so many discussions to what happened. Yes, because the reason why we're discussing so many point of views on this today is because yesterday's game was a disappointment in every facet. The fans showed up, Elias. We went to the stadium yesterday. It was packed. It wasn't a sold out. It wasn't a sold out stadium, but it was packed. First of all, the refereeing, I hate that dude. I don't know. Sorry, I'm gonna attack the referee now, but and I don't usually do that at the show,
Greek.
but
Back off.
Listen, I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. I'm never gonna defend a ref. Are you joking? I don't even defend my brother. You think I'll defend some random ref?
Let's bring out the brother right now. No, seriously. Like I wish I could say the word in Greek, but I was like, what the hell's happening right now? Like, anyways, I'm not gonna deep delve into the referee because that's an endless discussion that is not here or there. But I was very disappointed with that. But the game itself, the momentum was always on Nashville's side, and it just felt like I said, maybe it's the players that didn't show up. Maybe it's, I don't know. But after halftime, Elias, you would have thought that there was maybe something, because usually I think Marco Danedal has done a decent job of like adjusting, right, or keeping his players at least going, or keeping his players at least like motivated to continue like fighting for the game. But yesterday, I think what time was the tie scored? I think it was like maybe the 85th minute. I don't know.
81st minute.
At that point, you just see their body language, and you knew we lost. You knew that's it. That was done. There was no way they're going to score again. You just knew it. And then you're bringing in. I'm so sorry.
They were going to score again after like the hour mark. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, I thought they would lose, but it was just, you bring Sunusi Ibrahim, and you kind of, I kind of laughed about it. I'm not going to say what anybody else's reactions were, but I kind of laughed about it. And I said, at that point,
I'm going to put up top Breza.
What are
no
we
more
doing?
attackers on the bench.
What are we doing? Like, to me, anyways, man management, load management, whatever you want, injury coming back from knock. I thought they would switch it up a different way. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is a tie. We got 1 point. And am I wrong? We are still below Toronto FC in the standings, right?
Toronto drew, so they're a point ahead. They have 2 games left to play. Montreal has 1. They're playing against LA and Orlando, which are 2 very tough games. All Montreal needs to do is because they have the tiebreaker against Toronto, I believe. On goal differential, is it?
Okay.
No. Why are they ahead of? Oh, because they have more wins than Toronto. They have 6 wins. Toronto has 5. So if Cincinnati, if they tie in Cincinnati and then Toronto loses their 2 games, they finish ahead of Toronto. But either way, it's impossible for them to finish in last place. Even if DC wins and Montreal loses, it's impossible for them to finish in last place because Montreal has a goal differential. Unless Montreal loses by 5 and DC wins by 7.
Yeah, that's gonna.
Then
happen.
Montreal is going to be in last place. Mission accomplished, boys. Good job, you did it. You're not going to finish in last place. You're clear of LA. You're 4 points ahead of LA. So you're not going to get the wooden spoon. Bravo, mission accomplished.
You don't suck. Yeah, no, I
didn't say that. But party time.
No, but honestly, like we laugh not to cry, right? At this season, we said it. Hey, I said it in March, Elias. I said this in April, May, when they had lost, I think, 8 games in a row, and I said, guys, focus on what's on the field and not the results, because if not, for your mental health, you got to take care of yourself. Just focus on the process and the result, right? Today, I tell you the same thing. Next game, enjoy it. Enjoy the soccer, because it's going to be away for a very long time before it comes back. And then that's it. Just enjoy the moment, and think of us at the ball is round. Okay, so just to finish the show, we have a few hot takes that I wanted to talk to ask you here, Elias, and then we'll talk about Canada soccer just to end the show. Hot take, and I've asked you this. This is, I think, the third week I ask you in a row. What's the question, Elias?
I wonder.
Is Marco Donadel back next year?
Guess what I told you last week? Do you know my answer?
No, I forgot. Go ahead.
It was the same answer I told you last week and the week before and the week before and the week before.
Yes,
he's back next year. I'd be very surprised if he's not back next year. He won over the dressing room. He's got the team playing the way he wants them to play. And you need some level of continuity. Yeah, people are going to complain, but this is Montreal sports. There's no way the people were complaining in 2022, you know? People were always going to complain. You could have the best season in club history, and people are going to find a way to complain. So, people are not going to be happy that Donadel is back. You need some level of continuity. You can't scrap everything. You're going to have, at the very least, in my eyes, like 6 or 7 players that are leaving, at the very least, right? You need some level of continuity, at least in the coaching staff, to continue whatever it is this rebuild is going to be. So yeah, he's back next year. I can't wait to say that again next week and the week after.
Just to be contrarian, I'm going to say that he's not going to be back next year, and not because CF Montreal doesn't want him, but because he doesn't want to be part of this project, because I don't think CF Montreal is going to go through with their plan of getting the players he wants. I think they're just going to go do the same thing they did last year and try to get scraps from other teams. I don't think he's going to be convinced to come back. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right, and I'm an idiot. But I don't think he's going to be back next year. If he is back, because I don't think he'll be back, but if he is back, Elias, is he the best coach for this team and the rebuild? That's the real question.
Do you know how many times they've brought in the best coach for this situation, and it has not been? At this point, all you need for a coach to be successful, at least in the early stages of a rebuild, which this is a coach that's dynamic, a coach that can win over the locker room, and a coach that is at least tactically sound in some capacity. And that's going to let them play the way they're supposed to play. Marco Donadel is all of those things, right? He's not the reincarnation of Pep Guardiola. He's not going to do the stuff that Wilfried Nancy did right away, immediately, because we're talking about two different squads, first of all, and also just 2 different levels of manager right now. But is he the right guy? Yeah, he's the right guy.
Yeah.
He's not the right guy. He's a right guy. You know, he fits exactly what they need right now. So yeah, he's here next year.
I think, is he the best? If he is back, I do think he is the best coach, just because, as you mentioned, he's got the locker. Players trust in his teaching methods. The staff around him seems to speak the same language. So I do think he's the best one. As far as rebuild, I think that's going to be a big test, because when you're talking about a rebuild, you're also talking about maybe bringing some players with personality, which this club seems to have signed recently, players that have personality. We're talking about Thomas Gillier, Prince Owusu. These are players that, are not shy to speak their mind, that they'll, and I think the fans love them for that, right? And Adi Sinchuk, obviously we can't say that yet. He doesn't know the language that well, and he hasn't been on a press conference in order for us to really know what kind of personality he has. But is he the right one? I think he is, just because he's going to need to handle a lot of more terrible moments where there's probably going to be really lows for the team, but he's the kind of coach that seems to be able to hang them together when he's on the sideline and not suspended because of an accumulation of yellow cards.
I love it. It's contagious, man. The energy is contagious. If you have a coach that's going to fight for you, you're going to fight for your coach. If he misses a game or 2 during the season, I'm totally cool with it.
I'm not.
It's entertaining as hell.
Okay.
I'm not going to lose sleep over the coach missing 1 game, maybe 2 games, because he's too passionate. No, I'd rather that than him not give a shit.
I think his assistant coach needs to do a better job of he's back at it again. Let's go, Marco. Let's go. Sit down. We'll talk for you or something.
Good luck stopping Marco Donadel when he gets fired up. Good luck with that.
Yeah, of course, they need a system. They need a safe word.
Can you imagine Marco Donadel when Ivan Jaime got booked for simulation?
Oh my God!
You'd have run onto the field
and dive to show.
He would have
No,
two-footed the ref. Like, let's be honest here.
the
But
safe
like
word.
again, I love a coach that wears the heart on the sleeve. Everyone, it's impossible not to love a coach that wears their heart on their sleeve. Whether it's Antonio Conte or Diego Simeone or Marco Donadel, right? They're coaches that are passionate, that they're overtly passionate, and again, that's probably one of the main reasons why he won over the locker room is because you can tell he's invested. That's why I don't believe this nonchalant act where he's like, oh, whatever happens, happens. No, I think he wants this bad, or else he would not be acting like this on the sideline.
Okay.
He wasn't
Another
like this when he wasn't like this when he was an assistant coach for Laurent Courtois. He was super chill. Well, he was more chill, not super chill. He was more chill, right? He wasn't running up. He wasn't jumping up. He wasn't, going to see the fourth official every 5 seconds. So you can't tell me that he doesn't want this.
in
You can't.
practice, he was that character. He was as an assistant coach that
Yeah,
character.
because that's
But
a role he takes, right?
but you're right. In games,
You can't tell me this isn't like he doesn't have this fire inside that he
yeah.
doesn't want this head coaching job.
No, he's
You
an
can't
interesting character. He definitely will keep everybody on their toes. So I don't know. We'll see. Last hot take here from the show. So did David Sauvry make a case for himself for a future head coach here or elsewhere in the league? Now we haven't seen that many games, or we've only seen 2 games, and you've seen some press conferences from him. Do you think he would make a decent head coach? Do you think he made an argument for himself?
He speaks very well. He's a great communicator, at least with the media. But we see him in training, but we don't know what he's like in the locker room. We don't know what his tactics are like. We don't know what his philosophy is. We don't know anything about David Sauvry as a head coach. So I can't give you a proper answer because other than the way he's interacting with us, the media, and with players at practice, we have nothing to go off of. He does those 2 things very well. So if that's anything to go off of, he's going to be great at articulating his ideas and getting his philosophies across to the players. Whether or not the players embrace it is an entirely different situation because we don't know his man management style. We don't know how he's going to get people to believe in him. We don't know how he's going to get people to sign on to this project. So that's a big question. But based on the little we have to go off of, yeah, I think he'd make a good manager.
So as you guys know, the co-founder, co-creator of this show, Hadi Rafael, he always listens to us. He watches the game and he loves to be involved in some way. So he actually gave us a few hot takes yesterday, Elias, that we wanted to talk about in the show, and we're going to finish off with that. So one of Hadi's hot takes, he told us yesterday, if you add Hennady Sinchuk and one experienced center back and one other decent player against Nashville yesterday, you almost had the starting 11 of 2026. Do you agree with that? Do you think yesterday was the starting? If you put Sinchuk on the right instead of, I guess, DANTE Sealy, at least one experienced center back, Rudy Camacho, and one decent player. One decent player could be another Fabian Herbers, maybe. I don't know. Is that a 2026 lineup
for the next step of the rebuild? Yeah, right. For the next step of the rebuild, yes, I think that's a decided step forward. I think Efrain Morales is definitely a step up. I think he has all the makings of a starting level center back in MLS. I think his partnership with Jalen Neal is going to be really cool. But again, you have to actually, see it happen. We've seen like 5 minutes of them together, so it's tough to judge. But the biggest thing, we talked about it, is a player in the midfield, a conductor in the midfield, a specialist in the midfield. Yeah, Hennady Sinchuk, obviously, but you can't I can't say that DANTE Sealy didn't belong on that pitch. Yeah, he was arguably the best player on the pitch. And beyond the goal and that insane pass to Ivan Jaime, which should have been an assist but wasn't, he was great in the middle. In the half spaces, he was great at finding lines to break. He was very good. And this is the kind of DANTE Sealy. He's showing a different side of himself now. Because our biggest problem with DANTE Sealy was the consistency. Because he had a great game and then a horrifying game, and there was very rarely any in between. And now he's delivering consistently solid performances. And so now, 7 goals in his last 9 MLS games. So it's like, wait a minute now you're showing me something, right? Yeah. Now Hennady Sinchuk is not the clear starter, at least not right now. If 2026 started tomorrow, Hennady Sinchuk is not the clear starter, right? Because DANTE Sealy is making a very compelling case. So is that the starting 11 for 26? Yeah, I guess so. But again, it depends on how you define decent. Matty Longstaff is decent. Victor Latour is decent. I don't need decent. I need excellent.
Yeah.
I need elite. I
I
don't
think
need
what
Rudy.
Harry meant decent was a kind of Fabian Herber's player that does the job.
Fabian Herbers is decent. I need excellent.
So you don't agree with Harry? You think we don't need a decent player next year in the starting lineup? We need an excellent player and
Yeah,
an experienced veteran.
yeah. If you're gonna keep Prince, fine. You need a designated player level midfielder.
All right. Gabriel Grandin tells us the team needs a massive upgrade at number 8 and at striker. Bringing a starting caliber player at these positions will help the bench too, similar to what you're saying, Elias. And he also said, and a number 10 or a winger is welcome too. I don't know about a winger. Like a winger.
I want an experienced number 10 to kind of mentor Olher Escobar. But Olher Escobar is the 10 for the future, 100%.
But you don't think that someone like Ivan Jaime could be that veteran mentor to Olger Escobar for the number 10 since he knows the position?
He
Or do
knows the
you need
position, but I'm talking about someone that he can actively play off of.
Okay. And
Ivan
now
Jaime should stay on the wing where he's most effective.
Hattie had a second question for us about the game. If Donadell's your guy, are you satisfied with the performance in the second half against Nashville?
No, we talked about it, right? But I'm not thrilled with the tactics. I'm also even more so upset with the players because of the delivery, because of the way they put together that performance. So yeah, Marco Donadell did not, and David Soufri and the staff together, because it's always the staff. It's never just Donadell. It's they didn't plan the best game, but the players delivered an even worse game. So.
And he gave us a few times, and I agree with you. If I don't say anything, it's because I agree with Elias. I don't. It could have been Marco Donadell, David Sauvray. At the end of the day, the players failed to show up. Right. He also said, "I feel that Donadell didn't show much this season. We had 1 or 2 decent games with him at the helm. What about you guys? What do you guys think?"
I really disagree with that.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that.
I didn't know.
With the hand he was dealt? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, with the absolute dumpster fire that he was handed, he managed to completely shift the team's tactics, bring in a more attacking brand of football, unite the team completely, unite them behind his vision, and still stink up the joint. But you can't tell me the vibes were a million times better than they were with Laurent Courtois.
Now let's talk about that. You mentioned Laurent Courtois because he talked about that too. He said Laurent Courtois was better regarding the product on the pitch, but his man management was not good. Meanwhile, Donadell seems to be very good with his man management, but the product is no good. What are your thoughts on that? When you compare it, I have such a hard time doing that one.
If we're talking about 2024 Laurent Courtois, I agree with you. 2020, you have to remember, 2025 Laurent Courtois was a shadow of himself. He came into the season visibly exhausted. He even mentioned the first press conference. I was talking about this with Maxime Troman. He mentioned this at the beginning of the press conference, at the beginning of the season last year, just training camp. He just mentioned how he wanted a bit more. He felt tired. He was not at 100%. And tactically, it showed. It was a very lethargic and conservative and negative team. And tactically, it was not working. Right. And you don't have Sincho, you don't have Rion, you don't have Neil, you don't have all these players. Sure. But you still have a competent starting 11. Right. And you have nothing to show for it. And I agree with the way his firing was handled? No, but you're in a shitty situation no matter what. But on the field, Laurent Courtois gave nothing in his games as coach.
Yeah, I disagree with Hari. I don't think that Laurent Courtois was better necessarily in his the product of which because his man management was not good. I don't think his man management was good, which affected the product on the field terribly because the players were confused, the players were tense, the players were not really sure what their role was in his scheme, and it just felt like they spent a whole off season practicing for nothing because once they came out of the gates, it was not good. Marco Donadell, the moment he took over, you almost saw like a freedom in the field. It always feels that way, Elias, in general, in sports, not just soccer. In sports, the new coach comes in, coach says, guys, have fun, enjoy yourselves. Whatever we were doing in the past, completely different today, right? But Marco Donadell had to do it for a much longer time than some of these coaches because Laurent Courtois was fired so early in the season. And we'll talk about that more once the season is over, when we look back at the season and we take a close look at the dossier of Marco Donadell and everybody around him. Last topic of the day. I know I keep saying this, but last topic of the day. Canada men's soccer has 2 friendlies coming up in the next few weeks against Australia in Montreal, in Stade Saputo, and Colombia in New Jersey. Just tell me, Elias, what will you be looking out for in these games? I know we'll talk about it probably next week more in detail, but what are you looking for? What players are you looking at? What's
Nobody getting hurt, man. Please.
at that timing for that?
Yeah, Moise Bombito unfortunately was stretchered off, so he will not be playing in front of his hometown crowd. Unfortunately,
Kamal Miller is replacing him.
Kamal Miller, yeah, it was already announced. Kamal Miller is taking his spot, so I mean he'll get a little bit of a homecoming as well. So will Joe. There's a bunch of players getting a homecoming. There's like a third of the team that came through Montreal at some point or another. So they're all getting a bit of a homecoming, which is nice. But yeah, my biggest thing is they're defending down the middle of the field, because especially when they played against Romania and Wales, I felt them to be particularly vulnerable against very vertical attacks. And so I'd like to see them shore that up. Again, they play in a flat 4-4-2, right? Jonathan David may be, on hooks a little bit to play a bit deeper, but it's basically a 4-4-2. And that leaves them a little bit open in the middle of the park. And I want to see them to be a bit more concise and a bit more pragmatic when it comes to defending teams that can get vertical, or else you're going to get countered, and life is going to be very difficult. Because against Romania, especially Romania, not as much against Wales, they were let off the hook a lot by a team that was not effective and not decisive. If you play against a team that's lethal, you're going to get obliterated, and you're playing against Colombia, that's going to happen.
Oh yeah, Colombia is surprisingly I mentioned it in this show. Every time Peru has played Colombia, they've always snuck up on you at random moments, and you have to be on it at the whole time. Is there any particular player that you'll be looking at? And another question for you before you tell me the player: what do they need to do during this window of friendly games to consider it a success to you, Elias?
Win both games.
That's it. Just win. That's all.
I mean, I talked about the defending down the middle. But win both games.
Okay.
Sure. If you are a team fighting and expecting to be a top 20 team in the world, and you are a team fighting for the knockout stage of the World Cup, you need to be beating top teams like Australia, who you're ahead of in the world rankings, but Colombia is a top 20 team in the world. Colombia's a top 15 team in the world. You should beat them. If you really want to aim for that, you should walk into the game going, we have to beat them. So I'd like to see that. Whether or not that happens is an entirely different story. But I do believe that they're 13th in the world. I just checked. They have to go into it fighting for that. If there's a particular player, I'd love to see Nico Seeger back up what he did the last window, because he was probably the biggest standout for me, at least the biggest surprise. Tejan Buchanan is back in form. That's great. Ali Ahmed is so fun to watch. But Nico Seeger for me is the guy that you have to look at to see if he can replicate how good he was in the last window.
I want to see. I'm going to be keeping my eye out on Mathieu Choinière, and the reason being is because I want to see what kind of Mathieu Choinière are we getting as the World Cup gets closer. Like, is he going to be next level Mathieu Choinière, or is he just going to be MLS level Mathieu Choinière? Because he went to Europe and it didn't work out for one reason or the other. So who is he when he comes to the national team? So I want to keep a close eye on that. And obviously Nathan Saliba's progress since he's gone to Europe. It looks like he's doing really good things there. Cool. So before we finish, though, guys, we announced it today. A quick reminder, The Ball is Round has a giveaway. We will be giving away 2 tickets to see the Canada men's national team's first game in Montreal since 2017. All you have to do is follow The Ball is Round on the X and Blue Sky. Subscribe to our YouTube page and comment under our post in any of those social media. And the draw will take place on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and you have until then to enter. All right, so thank you again, guys, for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show. As always, the podcast will always be free to listen and watch on all of our platforms. Make sure to check out our Patreon page for exclusive member content and all of our social media platforms for more content, and follow my account as well as Elias for daily updates. Big shout out to all of you who joined the Patreon this week, and thank you again to all of you who tuned in tonight, and see you next week for episode 242 of The Ball is Round.